This is the whole damn show. Rob Van. Damn. Whoa. You got that whole arm in there? Whoa. Damn. You're watching Counted Out.
You are listening to Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to my favorite show of the year. It's not even close. It is the Bill Apter Seal of Approve, Count It Out with Mike and Tyler year-end show. 7 topics, 7 guests. We bring it to you every time. My name is Tyler. I am joined, as always, by Mike. Mike, what a lineup we've got this year.
Oof. Can I tell you how funny it is? No, don't get me wrong. I love our year-end shows. I don't know how you love the year-end shows because it's so stressful, especially for you. You do a lot more work on year-end shows than I do. Um, but it's so funny to me that our our two favorite shows are different from each other for very different reasons, and we both stress over those shows, and the other one doesn't give a shit. You stress and you put so much into the year-end show where I'm just like, whatever. It's like it's gonna be awesome, dude. We're gonna have a great time. I'm cool. I'm all about the anniversary shows.
Yeah,
You
I
know
don't care
me
about them. I'm like,
exactly.
whatever.
I always want to make sure that our anniversary shows hit, that we're going to do a great anniversary shows, and you're just like, yeah, whatever you want to do, man. It's just so funny how we're the same but reversed. It's really funny. But I do love the year end shows. Um, it's us and a bunch of people that we really respect every year talking about the thing that we love the most in professional wrestling. How can you not love a show like this? This is where we count down this year Tyler's 7 greatest moments of the year,
Yes.
which we'll see if they match up with mine at all, and see if they match up with yours at all. And we get people on to help us talk about those items. And I love that. We've come a long way with our year-end show. This might be one of the biggest ones yet. We have no new faces this year. It's all friends of the show. It's all people who've been here before, know us, know you, love our show, love our fan base. So I think this is going to be one of the most comfortable shows we've ever done because we're just slipping into a hot tub with a bunch of buddies.
And of course, well, that's a good time. I didn't know we were in a hot tub. I gotta take my pants off. Um, and of course, we throughout the show we will be doing our picks for some of our pay-per-views of the year,
Mhm.
wrestlers of the year, matches of the year, tag team of the year, all that fun stuff. And I think we should start it off right now. The number 7 moment of the year is the relationship between the WWE and TNA Wrestling. Here to talk about that is the walking weapon, Josh Alexander.
So I want to talk about maybe one of the biggest stories in the wrestling world that happened this year, and that was the cross merger with TNA Wrestling and NXT Wrestling. Is that something that you like taking, you've been a fan forever, right? Did you ever think that we would live in a world where we would see the WWE working with not only other wrestling companies, but prominent wrestling companies like TNA Wrestling?
No, I can't say I did, but I grew up in a time when like everything was separate sandboxes at all times, other than like the kind of the ECW crossover that loosely happened before the Attitude Era. But like even then, like it's just like I never would have thought we would get to a point where TNA is featured on NXT, NXT is featured on TNA, and even like to see AEW do this stuff with New Japan. Like I always thought with TNA doing it with Japanese companies and stuff like that, but just to see it with the 3 mainstream companies working with other companies synergistically, and I think it's just a testament to like the growth of the fan bases in the wrestling community, and I think it's giving the people what they want. Like people want to see dream matches. Like
Absolutely.
this is one of the like the hottest topics always is like, what if like Stone Cold Steve Austin in his heyday. I remember like I had the magazine. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998. What if he went one-on-one with Bill Goldberg? And you were like,
I remember those.
I was like 11, like, oh my God, the cover of this magazine's right. Like, what if that happened? It was like Austin would kick his ass for sure. But like, that's because I was a Stone Cold guy. But
Me
like,
too.
you know what I mean? There's people on the other spectrum that just want to make these dream matches. And now you live in a reality where that can happen. And it's
Mm.
just exciting for the fans and exciting for the product because it like freshens things up, right?
I think it's really cool too that we get to see somebody like Jordan Grace, say, for instance, show up in the Royal Rumble and not just be there, but like be prominent and be featured strongly. And like was that a cool moment for you to see one of your colleagues and someone that's so respected in the business get a moment like that in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, and like honestly, I've talked about it before. It's just like to see how well she did and how much she was able to do. And it just like I think that like skyrocketed her to superstardom. Like she was always talented. It's just getting that platform to do it with these wrestlers that are put on this pedestal of like they're WWE women's champion caliber like female wrestlers. And like as a TNA wrestler, you always kind of know like you're looked at kind of a little bit below because your product's not as big and stuff like that. But to see her show up and kill it, like obviously she's one of the most talented wrestlers in the world, but like in that scenario to do it in front of the world in the Royal Rumble, my favorite pay-per-view, like the one show I never miss, you know what I mean? That's my thing. And like that's like the dream come true, I think. So
Absolutely. Now, I know myself, and I'm sure a lot of other wrestling fans, we were kind of hoping that we would maybe see Josh Alexander get involved in some form of way with that. Was that something was there any discussion about maybe having you show up? I know the takeover was in Toronto. We were all kind of hoping for it, and you've got that history with Ethan Page. Was there ever any, maybe conversations about you getting involved in any of the NXT stuff?
I think there was definitely conversations. I think it was definitely, something that was wanting to happen from one side or the other. It's just it never transpired up until this point. You never say never though in wrestling. And I'd be happy to do it just because, like I said, like for the fans, it's really cool. And I think I'm a fan first and foremost. Like that's the only reason I do this and put my body through this because I love it so much. So selfishly, it'd be cool, just to mix it up with different people on a different platform. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But it definitely would be cool.
It is now time for one of my favorites of the year. It is our independent wrestler of the year. Now, you and I both do this a little differently. I stick to the Ontario scene. You go a little bit more globally for yours.
Yeah.
Do you want to start us off or do you want me to start us off?
I'll start. I'm cheating.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat this year too.
Okay. Because we never really said that we couldn't do a tag team.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing an indie tag team this year.
Okay.
I'm picking Fresh Air.
I love that pick.
Fresh Air has been on fire all year. For those who don't know, Fresh Air is McRae Martin and Junior Benito. Two tremendous singles wrestlers in their own right who have become a tag team in the last few years. They made the PWI 100 list last year, and they were like, I don't know, 99 or 98, something like that. They were down there. This year they made the top 25.
Yeah, they outranked the teams like the New Day and like that's really cool.
They were 24 out of 100. And that's not just indie tag teams, that's all of tag teams and all of wrestling. That just shows how amazing they've been everywhere they've gone. I know it's supposed to be indie wrestler of the year, but I'm putting these two guys together.
That counts.
I think it counts. Go show me a tag team on the indie scene. Go show me two wrestlers who are putting in the grind the way that these two guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't see them on a bigger stage in the next 2 years, I'll be extremely surprised, no matter what Jim Cornette has to say.
Yes, suck it, Jim Cornette. I'm also going to cheat this year because I'm picking two, but I have a reason for it. I think you'll give me a pass on it. Number one, sheerly out of pure respect for the man, and because I got to be a part of his final Canadian independent match, I'm giving a tip of the cap to Josh Alexander.
Of course.
Because that man is what independent wrestling represents.
Agreed.
So that one is out of respect and for his body of work that he's put into the Canadian scene over the last however many years it's been, 15, 20 years, whatever it's been.
Yeah.
My choice for independent wrestler of the year, however, I decided to stray away from the usual suspects that you could shoe in every year. Your Von Vertigos, your Gabriel Fuerzas, your Myung Jae Lees, and I want to put some eyes.
All names that could contend though.
They definitely
Yeah,
do contend,
yeah.
especially the year Fuerza had working some really big names. But I'm going to shine the light on a younger talent.
I
Uh,
know where you're going with this.
I just think that the work that this man put in this year, the matches that he had, the improvement that you've seen in ring from him, and he's also
You
somebody that
you
you're
gonna
gonna
do it?
no.
You gonna do it?
Should I?
You gotta do it.
It's a man that you are going to see as soon as this segment is done, and it is the one and only barn burner, Van Landon. And let's go ahead and throw it to Mr. Van Landon right now for our topic on the counted out best of 2024 list. The number 6 moment of the year is the turn of the new day. And here to talk about that with us is the barn burner, Van Landon. I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend. Gonna talk our number 6 moment of the year, as you just heard. Former Barry Wrestling Three Pistol Champion. Sorry to start a downer, brother.
It's okay.
My good friend, Mr. Van Landon. What's going on, brother?
What is up, TCO? Very happy to be here. There's no place I'd rather be than number 6 on Counted Out's year-end show. I thought that was gonna rhyme better when I started it, but you know what's up?
We'll
Van
give
Landon
it
is
to you.
here. I'm
Christmas is
happy to be
over.
here.
Christmas is over, so you don't need to rhyme anymore. You're good, right? You gave her the
There
effort.
we go. There
All right.
it is.
So before we get into our topic that we're going to talk about that our viewers just heard, it's going to be the new day. I have a little shoot for you that I haven't smartened you up on.
What? Uh-oh.
So, the segment before this that our listeners have heard that you have not heard, we have talked about. I want to get your opinion on this as well because you're very big into this scene. But
Okay.
Mike and I just gave our choices for the Independent Wrestler of the Year. Now,
Ooh.
Mike, he always goes for the whole spectrum. Now, I just stick to Ontario because that's what I know. I don't follow the indies as big as the rest. And I had my choice, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. I had a tie for mine for the first time ever.
Oh.
Now, out of respect for this man and everything that he's done, and the fact that I just got to call his last Ontario independent match, Canadian independent match, I had Josh Alexander. And from a working standpoint, I had the man that I'm speaking to right now. You were actually my choice for the Ontario Independent Wrestler of the Year.
My goodness.
And I
Well,
did not
first
smarten you
off,
up. I did not smarten you up to that before we came on air here.
no, you didn't. So I'm actually pretty shocked, but thank you, first of all. I'll tell you, this year I was the Ontario Independent Champion for close to 200 days from about April through till October. I defended it all over the province against so many different names. Tyler Turva, uh, Rob, Robbie Reckless, Steve Brown, Jax Williams, Grizzly Mac. The list of names goes on, as well as, of course, the Barry Wrestling Three Pistols champion, which, I mean, you mentioned it. Up until recently, I was a fighting defending champion of that title too. So for me personally, thank you for putting me there. I am incredibly honored for you to say that and for you to rank me there. I've only tried to elevate myself, my in ring ability, my whole package, so to speak, this year, and I think it's showing through in the work. So I really thank you for that. Josh as Independent Wrestler of the Year is a strange pick because is he not with Impact Wrestling,
He
TNA
is.
Impact Wrestling?
So I gave it to Josh out of just the years and years of paving the way for guys like yourself. And the fact that this year is the year that he's officially decided to stop taking independent bookings. I just he wasn't my pick for the Independent Wrestler of the Year, but I wanted to acknowledge the work that he has done. So
Ah,
I put him in there, but you were my choice for Independent Wrestler of the Year, and I'm going to separate, TCO and Van Landon and our friendship outside of the wrestling world, and I'll tell you why. I didn't pick you because you're my friend. I picked you because I've watched you this year from afar, and I've watched you in the ring and Barry. And I just hope that you are proud of yourself for the improvements that you have made this year. Not that you've ever not been talented in the ring, but you have really taken your game to the next level. And I don't just mean that from a working standpoint, I mean that from where you're working now as well. You have been all over Ontario. You've been, you're strong in Hamilton Pro Wrestling, strong with GCW, strong with Barry Wrestling. You debuted in the States this year. Your in-ring style is evolving to working more of a main event level style on the independent scene. And I just think that you should be proud of yourself. And that's me putting you over, and I'm going to bury you for the rest of the show now.
thank you.
Barry Horwood's pat on the back there, eh?
Hey, we all have our roots, don't we? So if not for where we started, I wouldn't be here getting to pat myself on the back like that. Thank you so much,
You
TCO.
deserve it,
You're
man. And
making me cry under these glasses
well,
over here.
that's why you got to keep the gimmicks on, brother. But no, I think that you've had a great year. So you were my choice. And obviously we have our usual suspects every year. Your Gabriel Fuerzas, your Von Vertigos, your Jesse V's, your Mark. Like we're so talented and so spoiled in Ontario. But I just think for the work you put in this year, I wanted to give you some acknowledgement. I'll give you the $20 that I owe you off air. Okay, that's
Appreciate it. Yeah, you know the e-transfer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. So let's get into a little bit of year end here. It's been a great year in professional wrestling. We're going to solely focus on something that just recently popped onto my list here, and it's the turn of the New Day. They snuck onto the list here at the very last minute. Um, let's talk about the big angle, man. What going into this angle, we obviously all knew that Big E was going to be involved. It's the 10-year celebration of the New Day. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I think we saw maybe a Woods heel turn, or I think that was like the obvious choice, but I don't think we saw both of them turning on E.
No, I can only agree with how you just put that. The New Day leading up to this, obviously, we're showing cracks in the foundation, showing a little tensions. Woods, Kofi, they were just sort of getting at each other. And then, yeah, we lead into the big celebration. And in Raw past, whenever it's a celebration, we can always expect surprises and things like that. So, of course, Big E being a surprise, you can't have the New Day without all three members. And of course, Big E was going to be there. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you say what caught everybody from left field was both. I mean, you could have had one turn on the other, have Big E sort of mend the relationship with the either. But the fact that both Kofi and Woods verbally, you
Yeah,
know, destroyed seemingly the entire history of the New Day. And what makes it even worse is they raised a lot of fair, valid points.
absolutely. That's what makes the best heels, right? That's like what I loved about this angle too, is that there were so many different ways it could have went. Like we could have had all three happily reunite and Big E as their manager and then maybe done a heel turn of Woods down the road later. And people would have loved it. We could have had Woods turn heel and have Big E stuck in the middle, and that would have been cool. We could have had Big E and Kofi together with Woods as a heel. That would have been cool. And I don't think anybody saw both of them being like, yo, E, like, you suck. You left
Yeah.
us. And it's not only that they just like aired some grievances out on him, they emotionally destroyed him. like it was like I felt sad watching it, you know, talking about all the other people that broke their neck and who came back and how you sold out for your girlfriend and for your TV shows and it's just like, man, that's so mean because Biggie broke his neck. He didn't abandon everybody. He broke his neck and had to pivot. Like, and it's just like, and I thought Biggie's facial expressions were great, but I thought the strongest part of the whole thing because we all expected Woods like to be more of the dick, but when Kofi stopped him and was like, "Nah, he's right." Like, and I think that's where the whole angle shifted because we've never seen Kofi be like that. We've seen him be a heel at the beginning of New Day for like that first year or two, but they were like he was in the shuffle. He wasn't like full heel. They were still kind of like tweeny heel faces.
Yeah, no one knew what was going on. That was when the Usos still wore swim shorts and stuff. The tag
Yeah,
division just didn't matter back then, unfortunately. So you're right, it was sort of in a floundering spot. And prior to then, he was always a babyface. So to see Kofi, do do something like that
right.
is honestly a shocking visual. You
Like
don't see that.
we had Kofi Mania. Like Kofi's always been he's like our Ricky Steamboat. You know, he's like this generation's Ricky Steamboat, where
That's a great call.
people don't see that from Kofi, right? We've never seen him do that. So that was powerful. And even just to talk about the follow-up as well that they've done, like how the locker room has like shunned them. But what I like about it, it's not just the baby faces that are like, we don't want nothing. Like the heels are also doing it, which I think like adds to just what a bunch of assholes these guys are. Like they're like Dominic Mysterio level heels now.
At this point, and speaking of Dom, had him a sort of have that acknowledgement to Kofi and Woods, to your point, letting him know how he feels about it. But I think it's exactly that. The spirit of the New Day, the power of positivity, transcended wrestling. Bootios, Pancake Power, New, Day Rocks. They had cereal. Let's be real.
The trumpet, the trombone or whatever they
The
played,
trombone,
right?
Francesca,
Francesca.
like the New Day were the biggest thing for a long time. And for two of the three members to spit on it, it's different than when Seth Rollins turned on the Shields. One guy, branching off. It's a whole nother thing for two guys out of the three to completely flush away
Mhm.
what was there, what they had, what was created. That's where this level of hate is coming from. And you're right. The heels and the faces, all these backstage interactions that we're seeing, which by the way I love in this new era, showing all the inner workings of the relationships now on Raw. But it's so cool to see, the unified agreements of disagreements with Kofi and Xavier Woods.
So the last question I want to ask you about this then as we bring home our little segment here because there's not a lot to talk about still because it's so fresh. Like it just happened. So I'll ask you two questions actually. Number one, is this the most interesting that the New Day has been in the last probably 5 years, would you say? Because they were getting a little stagnant, in my opinion.
The stagnant, you're absolutely right. They're coming out in their colorful gear everybody loves, but it became not the nostalgia act, but the we've seen this before. There wasn't anything fresh. It was just New Day Sans Big E. So I can agree in the last 5 years, absolutely. This is the freshest the New Day has felt. Kofi Mania and then Big E's world title run up until his eventual injury, the New Day felt like the afterthought behind the guys themselves. And even if you want to look at New Day as a whole, from the comedy to all the fun to when they tried to be the serious preachers at the very, very beginning, I would argue that this is the best New Day stuff we're getting across the board.
So the last question I'll ask you about it then. You got the pencil in your hand. Where are you taking the New Day as we roll into this year?
Raw on Netflix, right?
Raw on Netflix.
I think there's two big Viking guys with two titles.
You put him right in the
Uh,
title mix, you think? Is that where you're going with them?
I think they go take it. To me, and especially with how they're sort of playing it cool. They're in street clothes. They're not wearing their colorful gear. I'm so excited to see what their gear will be too.
Hmm.
To see what changes, perhaps. Consequences Creed used to wear trunks. Kofi used to wear trunks. Are they going to switch the look up completely on us? But I think these guys are sort of like the outsiders when they join WCW right now. Although they are in the locker room, they do work here, but that's sort of how they're being treated, like a Hall and Nash, like you're not welcome here. But I think
Yeah.
if they take those titles, obviously the Vikings just got them, but if they could go in there fresh on this new heel heat, snatch those up, I think it will only help elevate not just the the storyline, but those titles as well.
I agree 100%. I think maybe the sooner the better to get those titles or get them in that title hunt, keep them hot, right? I agree with you
Absolutely.
100%. You know what I would like to see, and I don't know if this is possible right now because I don't know what Big E's health status is, but I would like to see Big E eat a pile driver from the New Day
Ooh.
and keep him out of the ring longer until he's ready to come back.
I mean, I'm first in line wishing for a Biggie recovery. I hope that we see him back in a ring one day. I mean, I don't want to see him get pile driven, but if it
If
means that
if he's
get him some
healthy,
closer to it, hey,
if he's healthy and cleared and is able to take that safely, or if there's some other type of neck move that they can do to him, like I just think that having these guys attack Big E before we know that he's cleared to return, like I don't, you know what I mean? I want it to be keep the cards close, and like maybe there's a segment where Big E's talking and they come out and it gets heated and they hit him. You know, what I mean? Like you remember what they did with like Brutus Beefcake back in the day when Money Inc. hit him with the briefcase and busted his face open.
or even more recently, what I think of was Seth Rollins with the stomp on Edge when he was still completely retired at that point.
Yeah,
Obviously,
they held
didn't
him
hit it,
over.
but
They held him over, right? You know what I mean? You have that tease there, and I think that's a powerful weapon. Or even if they like force Biggie down and look like they're gonna do the neck snap thing and have a couple baby faces make the save, maybe, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Ooh, actually, just because we're thinking of this, because I was thinking who would make the save for Big E. There's two names that come to mind, and as long as they're not busy with everything else they have going on, Jimmy and Jey Uso got the most history with Kofi and Woods. I think that would be amazing.
I would
Just
like to see another Usos and New Day match in the year 2025 for
I,
sure.
that Hell in a Cell lives rent free in my mind.
That whole program. Where do you know what? This is another good question. Now that we're talking, now you got me spinning off on the sidebars here. So we have to wait till we get to that number five moment in a second here. But where do you put the Usos and the New Day as far as the greatest tag teams in WWF/E history? Not in all of wrestling history, because I'll give you a second to think about it while I put mine. I have the Usos as the number one tag team in WWF, WWE history of all time. And I have them as the number three greatest tag team of all time, in my opinion, in the world of professional wrestling. Maybe number two at this point. They're in my two or three spot. LOD is always going to be my number one because I just think that the world that they traveled, they won titles in Japan, and then the Dudley Boys and the New Day are my number two. As far as just WWF, New Day by a bullet, Usos is what I'm trying to say. Usos are my number one tag team, and I've got New Day in my top five for WWF, and they're probably in my top 15 to 20 all time.
I I mean, so many of those names are absolutely perfect. I think the Usos, especially when you consider WWEF only, are in the top three for me. Perhaps number one. I would have to argue that one and two would be between the Hardys and the Usos, and I look at
Yeah.
brand sort of impact on culture. And you can't deny Yeet No Yeet what they're still doing now. Obviously, they had to start somewhere to get here, and it's more so been sort of the last 10-ish years. Actually, it's 2025 now, so more so the last sort of like 5 years where they, down since day one, Oos still sort of started happening where they
Mm-hmm.
really got that like crazy level popularity. The Hardys, of course, timeless in that role as well, but that's such a short time period
Yeah,
in
the
comparison
longevity,
to how
right?
long the Usos have been.
The
At New Day, it, it's tough for me. They're probably top five, but if we're gonna count New Day, which is three guys, we gotta count other stables, and I think like DX, sneaks in there as well. And the Shield, I think,
yeah,
sneaks into there as well in the top five for me personally.
fair
New
enough.
Day, of course, Shield, DX, Hardys, Usos. Hardys and Usos for pure tag team could be one or two any given day, but I think the Usos with the longevity
The
might do
re
it.
the reason why I always give the nod to the Usos, it's because of what happened 2 years ago. And the Hardys have stole the show at many WrestleManias, but they never main evented one. And for
Hoo,
the for the
hoo, hoo, hoo.
Usos to be the tag team champions main eventing a WrestleMania is a big deal. And to me, that's what put them over the top.
Thanks for reminding me of that. I think you just put them to number one for me as well. Absolutely.
Fun little sidebar chat there, my brother. Thank you for joining us. Tell the people where they can find Van Landon in the year 2025. Hit them with those socials, hit them with the Patreon, everything.
You know where to find me. I am the Van Landon everywhere. That's at TheVanLandon, the Van Landon on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, Patreon, Facebook, YouTube. If it has a social media, chances are at the Van Landon is on there. Find me everywhere. I'll be all over Ontario once again, and you never know where I may pop up. TCO shouted it out earlier in the show, US debut this year. So, hey, stay tuned. Stay tuned. That's all I got to say. Thank you, TCO.
Thanks, brother. We're going to get back to Mike and I here for our next topic that we are going to give you our best of. Cheers. Pay-per-view of the year.
This is tougher, I think, than most people would expect. I think both companies put on some great pay-per-views this year.
Yeah, I have I'm gonna pull a mic for my pay-per-view of the year.
Brock Lesnar's theme song.
I am not picking Brock Lesnar's theme song. Um, in my opinion, the two best pay-per-views of the year was WrestleMania Night 2
Mhm.
and AEW's Wrestle Dynasty or whatever it was called that had like Dragon and Will Ospreay on it.
Oh, okay.
Had Swerve Strickland winning the title. That card from top to bottom was
Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable. But
Cool.
I'm picking from my heart this year. And I'm
Cool.
pulling a mic and I'm picking Money in the Bank just because I was there and
Oh, okay.
I had such a great time at that show. So for me personally, that was my favorite event of the year. The live experience was really enjoyable for me. I got to go with my wife and my father-in-law and her nephew, my nephew and now I guess because I'm married into the family. And we just had a great time. So for me, for personal reasons, I will pick Money in the
I'm not
Bank.
I'm not going to argue with you on that. Number one, it was a good paper.
It was.
Number two, in a year from now, when we're having this discussion, fight me from saying that Elimination Chamber wasn't my favorite paper of the
Yeah, it
year.
might be mine too.
It already is. It hasn't
Yes.
happened yet. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah, I get where you're coming from. I unfortunately didn't get to go any wrestling shows in 2024, other than a couple bigger wrestling shows. I 2024 has been a dry spell for me. Usually I get to go to at least one or two TNA shows or, something, but this year's been a dry spell for me. I'm going to fix that in 2025 for sure. 100%. I already got my tickets. I'm going to Elimination Chamber. We know that much. Hopefully a few other shows. But as far as 2024 is concerned, you already mentioned it. I'm going with WrestleMania Night 2.
Yeah. That would be my pick if I didn't go to Money in the Bank.
But that's not to say that there wasn't so many tremendous pay-per-views this year. I know I'm a bit of a bully when it comes to AEW. I will pick out their mistakes and their problems. But let me tell you right now that one of their problems is not their pay-per-views.
No, they're fantastic.
They put on fantastic. They know how to put on a pay-per-view. It's everything in between and everything outside is muddled. But they know how to put on pay-per-view. And I'm going to say the same thing about WWE. WWE, as far as I'm concerned, only put on one disappointing pay-per-view this year. And I don't even think it's disappointing. It just wasn't because I personally hold this pay-per-view so high up, it just didn't meet my expectations. And that was the Royal Rumble. I don't think the Royal Rumble met my personal expectations, but they hit the nail on every other show this year. But WrestleMania, it was where it was at. WrestleMania was a perfect. We discussed this earlier this year. I think it could be in contention to be talked about as one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time.
Absolutely, it was.
It really could,
100%.
especially night 2.
I agree with you 1000%. Before we continue moving on with the countdown this year, let's take a moment and we are going to pay respect to some amazing people and superstars that we lost in the year 2024. Ice Train.
What are you doing for training, Ice Train? Anything special? Any weekly or daily activities we should know about?
Oh, me and Ron Simmons is up 8:45 a.m. every morning in the gym, hanging and banging with the weights, pumping up the 28-inch anacondas, and brother, we're on our way to Starcade, baby.
All right. He is exciting. He is a very high energy individual. Ice Train.
Ole Anderson.
We want to make sure that everybody all around the country has an opportunity to hear what I'm about to say. And I want you in particular to pay attention to it, Sting, because you're the reason we're here tonight. I want you to know you're not going to be a horseman anymore. It's over. No more horseman for the Sting. Yeah, don't close your mouth a second. I'm going to explain something to you. I want everybody to listen real close, and you listen real close. When Rick called me and called Arn to come in here, it was for one reason. And the reason he called us in here was to get rid of you. But I tell you, now just be quiet. There's 3 of us standing here, and there's one of you. Just wait a second. One thing that nobody looked for and nobody could figure was when you jumped in and helped Rick against this guy. We held off. A little later, in the Iron Man contest, we came in that ring and we were ready to stick your head in the sand again. And as we came through the ring, Rick gave us this, pay attention. Rick gave us that sign and waved us off. You were spared for the second time. And then something that nobody would have ever dreamed could happen, happened when you became one of us, a horseman. And you were a good horseman, no argument about it. You're a great wrestler, you're a tough, strong kid, but you did the one unforgivable thing that we can never forget. You know what that was? When you signed that match to meet Ric Flair for the world title on February 25th, you signed your death warrant.
Virgil.
Joining me now is Virgil, who is getting set to step into the ring with unquestionably the cruelest man we have ever seen in the WWF, the ex-convict Nails.
Nails, I seen what you did to my friend, the Big Boss, man. You handcuffed him behind his back, and you beat him like a dog, man. Well, I survived all the toughest streets around the world, man. And the biggest street I'm gonna survive is right out here at Wembley Stadium, because you got to want it, man. And Nails, my saying is, do unto you before you ever can do unto me, because I'm like all the good people here in London and all the good people around the world, man. I am definitely too legit to quit. Let the games begin.
Paul the Butcher Vachon.
And his opponent from the wilds of Canada, 289 pounds, Butcher Vachon.
This is Paul the Butcher Vachon, and you're listening to the Count It Out.
Aki Bono.
I look very much to our match next Sunday at WrestleMania. Since you have given me the honor and privilege to do a sumo challenge match at WrestleMania, I would like to do a WWE style match here tonight, right here, right now.
Alpha and Sika, the Wild Samoans.
They will be defending the tag team championship in Madison Square Garden against Tony Correa and Rick Martel, the challengers. Mr. Albano?
Well, I would not be fool enough to say I'm not concerned, but I'm actually not worried too much because, as you know, in the past we did at one time make a mistake. But this will never happen again. The captain I contemplated victory. I am truly ready. I have my men well groomed, as you can see. Alpha has lost some 40 pounds. The speed of a racehorse. Kidde. The speed of a racehorse, the man can move. He's like poetry in motion. And when you look at Sika, what do you see? A 6'3", 347-pound giant that moves with, it's poetry in motion, brother. The men have agility, speed, power, go behind, intestinal fortitude. The captain's got it all together. I'm going to film this entire match to prove to the world once and for all that Samoans are truly the greatest. I thank you for your time, my time, and your time. Daytime.
Leo Burke.
Next week, baby, Nick Bockwinkel's coming in. Now, I got 2 scores to settle with him. First of all, I'm going to take his world title away. I'm going to be one of the very few Canadians ever to win the world championship. And I know I have all you people's support behind me, which will help me. But one thing that I want to settle once and for all against him, because he's a liar. Last week in the program in the back, he paid advertisement, but it all was lie. Not only did he call me an overfat frog, he said he had met me in the past and defeated me. He's a liar. You've never been the same way as Leo Burke. But this week coming, yes, you are going to be right here if you don't chicken out. And mark my words, Ed, I've made a lot of promises, but I've never broken any. And I'm telling you people, I'm telling you, Ed Whalen, and you, Nick Bockwinkel, next week in Calgary, your title's coming to an end. Leo Burke, the North American champion, is going to have the world's title around his waist.
Kevin Sullivan.
Concerned is not the word for you, Mr. Soley. Concerned is the word for Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes. I traveled to Bangkok. I went to the Lady in Black, and I found the guardian of the Golden Spike, the Purple Haze himself. She walked me down to the den, and I found him resting his head on the pillow and having sweet dreams of Dusty Rhodes. Because the last time the Haze came for me, sent by the chairman of the board himself, Rhodes's face was a mass of ashes. He has been directed, the Purple Haze. Everyone in the wrestling world has wondered where he has been. He has been on the top of Diamond Head for 47 days, purging himself to come back to Florida. And woe is the word for you, Rhodes, because you are going to be strapped to the tree of woe for the last time. And this time, tortured. And it doesn't matter if Mulligan or Wyndham or any of your family tried to get together. This time is the final chapter. Because the Haze has spent plenty of time on the head, in the den, on the pillow. It is now time for the guardian of the Golden Spike to come, and you will see it one more time.
Psycho Sid Vicious.
The tag team match with Shawn Michaels as your tag team partner. It looked like Shawn made an honest mistake.
A mistake! Shut your mouth! Let me start from the beginning. See, it was week 1. It was me and Owen Hart, and then you come down, Shawn. Yeah, and then week 2, you and the Bulldog. I returned the favor. But week 3, mistake! Yeah, I'm down on my face. I turn around, and he's standing there with a chair. Was that a mistake? Maybe. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
But tonight, see, you kicked me right in my face, Sean. You kicked me right in my face! Mistake or not, there will be no mistake in Survivor Series, my friend. Yeah, that night will be the end of the reign of Shawn Michaels. For that night, my friend, you will have to step off the mountain, and the big man will step above, and no man shall cast a stone to knock me down. Why? Why? Because I am the master, and I am the ruler.
Villano 5.
Gracias. Gracias por todo, guerrero. Este es el triunfo más importante de tu carrera. Te llevas esta máscara. Yo reconozco. Ganaste. Pero lo único que nunca me vas a poder ganar, ni tú, ni él, ni nadie, es este corazón que yo tengo para agradar a todo este público, porque yo, cuando subo a luchar aquí, dejo mi corazón aquí.
Sonny King.
Lance, when I was in intensive care, they let my little 7-year-old son come in, and he looked at me, and tears was in his eye. And he says, I couldn't talk to him, my mouth was full of tubes and everything. But he says to me, Daddy, he says, are you going to be able to wrestle again? And I says, I couldn't talk to him. I just winked my eye at him and shook my head. But that's gone back in my mind and back in my mind. And Lance, for Larry, I'm going to wrestle again. A lot of people say no, the doctor's not certain about it, but I am certain about it. Lance, I've been training. I'm in shape. I feel I'm in shape physically and mentally. And I want a match to find out if I'm ready by not starting on the bottom, come right back on the top where I was when I left.
Pete Rose.
That's up, Last time I was here, we kicked your ass. What? That's what to make friends there, Pete. You can't win a World Series. Yeah. Wow. My buddy Bucky Dent says hello. You know, I left tickets for Bill Buckner, but he couldn't bend over to pick them up. Man, how about it? Oh, not Pete Rose! Good God! No! That's Pete Rose! That's Pete Rose! Pete Rose just got tombstone!
Joe Koff.
Let me just say this, that Jay Lethal and I had a very long discussion this morning about the events that transpired in Rahway this past Saturday night. Both he and Kevin Steen, the world champion, are going to be fined for their actions. I cannot have a situation ever in Ring of Honor where the integrity of our product is put into such jeopardy by the actions and the reactions and the emotions that took place in that arena. I have no other further comment.
Joe, can you elaborate a little bit more?
No more comments.
Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Jamesers Decker.
Oh, you didn't know? I got some electrifying news, folks. I am helping out the guys at Cary, Mike, and Tyler, and that's the bottom line because I said so. But once again, go like and share Cary, Mike, and Tyler on Facebook, Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube.
I am going to miss him for the rest of my life. And this show, everything I do on the show from this point on is dedicated to the memory and to my love of Jameser. I love you, buddy.
The number 5 moment of the year is the American Dragon Bryan Danielson winning the AEW Championship at All In, as well as his match with Nigel McGuinness. And here to join us for that one is former Ring of Honor owner Cary Silkin. Another cool moment that they did this year too was another Ring of Honor former world champion, and it was kind of we don't know what's going on with his future, but Bryan Danielson has
How could I forget him?
right? He won the world title in Wembley Stadium in a beautiful moment. How did you feel watching him get that big moment in Wembley Stadium?
Oh, it was good. I mean, not to diminish that, but he had that WrestleMania moment, right? So it was like another one. Brian's a great dude. He deserves it. I mean, I worked with him for 6, 7 years. A super nice guy. He's a student of wrestling. He used to sit. This is right from the beginning of Ring of Honor. Instead of sitting in the back and talking to his opponent or the other wrestlers for hours, he would sit behind the curtain and watch the matches, which is barely done. I see when I go to these events, whether I go locally or when I was in Florida, there's a nice little, it's not that little, it's called CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling. They run like 8 shows a month. But anyway, nobody is paying attention to what's going on in the ring. There's very little, and this is not new. There's very little concern or respect to moves that shouldn't be done because they're going to go on later in the show. Guys are, and we were guilty of it in ROH, but Brian would be like a cop. Back in that up until like 2009, and it wasn't a guarantee, but there were no one flying off a ladder in the first match or some ridiculous. Yes, we had some hot openings, sure we did, but it was you want to build the show slowly. Or build it in some way, not repeat moves. This is like pro wrestling 101. And I never claimed or professed or declared myself like a booker. Never. And I'm not, but just from being around and just from being a fan as long as I've been, and you understand, you just pick up on stuff. And there's just, too much. And it's a problem. It's a problem in the entire industry. What's the next thing? Someone's got to chop their head off or something. I don't, but once again, I'm not saying this is an AEW problem. It's WWE. It's just like, how high can the bar go?
Mm-hmm.
Look what, speaking of WWE, hold on, I'm going to grab a mint. Hold on. Speaking of WWE, didn't they have a couple of what the hell was it called? The steel cage thing they just did a couple of weeks ago.
That Hell in a Cell with Punk and Drew, is that the one?
No. Like 3 weeks ago, there was War Games.
Oh, the War Games. Yeah. With
right.
the
And
Bloodline.
Didn't the one guy, weren't there a couple of injuries like
Yeah, Bronson
what's
Reed
his,
broke his
Bronson
ankles,
Reed? Right.
and
And
Jay Uso broke his toe.
broke his toe. Well, how are you not going to break your toe? Jumping off the, it's so, but this is what happens, and I mean, is Aaron Judge going to come up to the plate for the Yankees with two bats next year?
Yeah, where's the evolution going, right? Yeah, that's something I always liked about Dragon though, is that he brings something different like to the product. He and I don't maybe it's from watching the matches like you said that he did and study what went out before, but like just his technical prowess and his match was always different than everything else on the card and he's got this way to just bring this emotion out of people. Like it's just so crazy to think about like the evolution of him from that first Ring of Honor main event with that three-way with Loki and Christopher Daniels all the way to the WrestleMania now to the Wembley Stadium. Like it's just incredible to watch what he's become in the industry.
Not to mention those unbelievable matches he had with Nigel back, in my Ring of Honor. Not to mention the incredible matches he had with, here's a forgotten name, even though he was champion, Morishima.
Absolutely.
And Kenta also, all those guys, the Noah guys brought so much to the table. And yeah, Brian could wrestle, Brian could fight. There was that one chain match, I believe, with Morishima, right?
Yeah, the Hammerstein, I think. Yeah.
That was, yeah, he's something. I'm sure he's not done. Am I absolutely sure? Well, he said he's going to wrestle now and then. So
Yeah. Yeah, they left the door open with the angle, right, to write him off. But I also was so excited to see the return of Nigel McGuinness this year at Wembley Stadium, and then not only that, but we get the go around again with him and Dragon before Dragon winds it down a little bit. That was an incredible moment as well.
it's a shame they had to rush that thing.
Yes.
I spoke to Nigel, and I talk to him now and then. Brian and I we just, he's not a communicator, but Nigel and I are friends. And I said to Nigel, couldn't you have built that? I mean, come on. It had to be done. Brian either had to get some medical thing that wasn't reported, or that was it. He just wanted to, because they rushed the fucking thing so fast that I'm glad they had it, but it certainly could have simmered a lot longer. And
absolutely.
I mean, that's one of the as far as with AEW, everything seems to be on super speed. It took 3 or 4 years for them to have 3 Ali Frazier matches. I know I'm speaking ancient history, but it took 3 or 4 years. Or Marvin Hagler and Leonard, I hope I got the guys right, or Roberto Duran and Marvin Hagler took 2 or 3, and they do it in WWE too sometimes, but like in AEW, when they brought in Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin and MVP, it's like yes, there's plenty more matches, but why do you want to give away Swerve like out of the gate? But what do I know? I am a failed wrestling promoter, and if the people at AEW think that this is a good thing to do, God bless him. You know, maybe it is, and I don't know, but I don't think it is.
So normally, this would be my favorite topic of the year to talk about. It is our tag team of the year, but this year has made it very, very tough in the world of tag team wrestling.
I feel like there's been so many amazing tag teams this year and so many amazing tag matches this year, but nobody has really stood out. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I agree. So I'm going to give a very strong honorable mention to the New Day because I think if they did their heel turn 2 months ago, they would be a
Yeah.
lock. They would be a lock for tag team of the year for me, and they would be probably on my list. You know, as we record this, whatever, pull the curtain back. I still haven't finalized my number 7 on my list as we're recording this. You've already heard my number 7, but as I'm recording this, I don't know what it is yet. And so they're still in consideration for it. But I'm gonna go with a team that has. Oh, and I want to give another strong honorable mention to the Motor City Machine Guns as well.
I wanted to choose them as mine so badly, but their year in TNA was just okay.
Yeah.
Before making the jump, and
another really strong honorable mention to me for the Hardy Boys as well. They're doing some really good stuff in TNA, but my tag team of the year is going to be DIY, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. They've won the tag titles a couple of times. They have totally reinvented themselves with this current heel turn, which I'm really excited to see. They've had constant great matches the whole year. I got to witness them win the tag team titles for a second time in Toronto. I've seen them win the NXT titles there many years ago, and now the SmackDown titles, and 2 phenomenal matches. So for me, it's DIY all the way.
This is without a doubt the hardest one for me to do on this list. Well, the second hardest. Just because of what I said, there's so many great tag teams right now, like so many great tag teams. Before Chris Bay went down, ABC would have probably been a contender for me. DYI was definitely a contender for me. FTR is still having a good run. There's so many great tag teams in every company. I am going to go with one that I don't think a lot of people will choose, but I really enjoyed what they've done all year. They made a hell of an impact just coming in, and they've had a great year helping push one of the biggest storylines of the year. I'm going to go with the Bloodline, the Guerrillas of Destiny.
All right, yeah. I mean, they did that Freebird thing with Jacob Fatu as well. Yeah, I mean, can't go wrong with that at all. I respect the choice.
I think they're really coming in as their own. They're not the same team as they were in Japan. They are this different style of what they were. I think Tama Tonga has become one of the most entertaining members of the SmackDown roster. Say what you want about Tonga Loa. People make fun of him because he's had a couple missteps over the years or over the year, but he's still a solid worker, and they're a solid tag team. And I don't think this new bloodline would have worked as well as it's working without these two guys.
I agree 100%.
I think they're an integral part of the best storyline of the year.
100%. Do not disagree with you one bit. Like the choices. Tough topic this year.
Very big.
And
very tough.
Speaking of tough things, let's keep getting into my list because this list was a tough one this year too. The number 4 moment of the year is the announcement at Money in the Bank of John Cena's retirement tour. And here to speak about that is former WWE referee Jimmy Korderas.
So a big story this year, and something that's taken the wrestling world by storm, is the announcement of John Cena. He's going to go on his retirement tour starting in, I think it's January. He did the big announcement this year in Toronto at Money in the Bank. It's one of the best moments of the year as far as I'm concerned. Very heartfelt promo he cut. What are you expecting to see out of this John Cena retirement tour?
Oh, wow.
Or hoping to see, maybe.
I'm hoping to see, obviously, some different matchups. You want to see some classics with people like him and Randy, for example, and maybe someone else along the lines. But also working with some young talent. I'd like to see him in the ring with someone like a Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
That would intrigue me because Gunther right now is one of my favorite wrestlers out there today because he's old school, which is like new school again, because he is a throwback to guys that I used to watch when I was a youngster, and he's doing it so well. And it's a proof that old school can still work in 2024, and he's doing it perfectly. So I'd like to see him go out on his terms. I know, knowing John, he'd probably want to go out like the proverbial, soldier on his shield, and elevating the next generation. But I want to see him go out on top. I think he deserves it. I think he earned it. So hopefully for me, and as far as who his last match would be, I know a lot of people are speculating it should be somebody young to get them over. But for me, the most complete wrestler on the planet right now is Randy Orton. And him and Randy have a history. I'd love to see that match as John's last.
I agree. John's done so much over the last few years, putting guys like Solo over and Austin Theory, and I would like to see a lot of that as well. Now, the Gunter name is very interesting because he's currently the World Heavyweight Champion. John Cena is tied for the record with Ric Flair. There's a great story to tell there. You'd like to see John get one more run with the big belt?
On a personal note, yes, because I like John. He's a good friend. But from a business standpoint, I'm torn. I'm really torn because, Ric Flair, he's tied with Ric Flair, one of the greatest of all time. He's on everybody's Mount Rushmore. So to have him break Ric Flair's record, I know a lot of people might rub some people the wrong way. And you don't want that reaction from your audience. So that's what I'm torn about. But at the same time, man, wouldn't it be cool to have someone finally beat that record?
And what a guy to do it, not only inside of the ring, but outside of the ring. Such a class act.
Yes.
You've got to share a locker room with them. You've refereed some of his biggest moments of matches. What are some...
You know what? The traveling that we used to do, like we used to go on charters and on buses, that's where the rap gimmick came from. It originated there because he was doing it in the locker room. He was doing it on, as we were traveling. And Stephanie McMahon heard it one day and she said, "Oh, you're doing that on TV." And that's when it became a thing. I love those moments, but also in the ring, he was so easy to work with because he understood the role of a referee. Now, I know I harp a lot on the referee in today's day and age because one of the things we were taught was, and the boys were taught, never bury your referee, because if you bury your referee, it makes him look stupid and all the heat goes to the wrong person. It goes to the ref. John never did that. And here's a guy who never turned heel, but still got that heel reaction. So, you know what? Oh, we had a run-in.
We had a Brady. We love Brady. Shout out to Brady.
But you know what? He gets much maligned because he's one of these guys, they say, "Oh, well, he only knew 3 or 5 moves." Guess what? That's all he needed, folks.
100%. Didn't need the flip-flops, right?
Yes,
exactly. This is pretty easy to get over, too.
Oh, yeah.
Personally, you refereed John Cena in the Big Show, WrestleMania 20. What do you remember about that whole night? WrestleMania 20, such a historic night in the business, Madison Square Garden, and kicking off the show with that U.S. title match.
No, I had a great time with that one. It was, like you said, it kicked off the show, and the opening match is just as important as pretty much any other match, because how you start off the show and how you end the show are the 2 most important parts of the show. So to be able to be in there for that match with John, winning his first championship too, the United States Championship, getting to do that little spot with him with the chain, and him outsmarting me, say that's what I'm talking about, not making your referee look bad. I thought I was doing my job correctly, but he outsmarted me, and it was fun. But turning around and watching him with Big Show up on his shoulders, I went, man, this guy's got some strength.
Now, I've heard you talk a lot about the famous Royal Rumble spot with the double elimination with him and Batista, and the famous Vince blowout of his quad and all that fun stuff. I've never really heard you talk about what everyone was saying after in the locker room. Did you guys be like, "Holy shit, we pulled that off," or what was the conversation like when the camera stopped rolling backstage on that?
Yeah, well, the conversation was that all called out on the fly out there? And it was like, yes, it was. They go, you couldn't have planned it to come off looking better than it did. And when I've looked back at it, it looked like it was supposed to be that way. You couldn't have planned these guys landing at the exact same time the way they did. If you would have tried it, they wouldn't be able to pull it off. That was completely by accident, but it was a happy accident. Listen to everybody talk in the back going, was that the finish? Was that supposed to be the finish? It looked like it was. The way they pulled it off, because we're getting instruction in our ear. Okay? Tell these guys to do this, tell these guys to do that. And then when Vince came out and blew his quads out, it almost put a damper on everything because everybody went, "Oh, we didn't know at the time he'd blown up both quads," and we did. And then the guys in the back were like, "What happened with Vince?" And we're like, "I don't know. He just fell on his butt, and wouldn't get back up." But to his credit, he managed to get himself to the back on his own power. He refused anybody else helping him. So you got to give him credit. He toughed it out. But a lot of the scuttlebutt was once they found out that it wasn't the planned finish, the way it went off, they said, hats off to everybody because they made it look like it was.
Unbelievable. It's an unbelievable moment and an unbelievable career that you've had, Jimmy.
Well, there you have it. We have come to the end of part 1 of our year-end show. What a great episode this has been. Thank you to all of our guests that have joined us. Thank you to all of you who have joined us. Mike, what do you think, man? Big week next week, right?
Oh my God. We're going to wrap this all up next week and then start 2025. This is insane to me. But before 2025 can start, we have to finish 2024. Please tune in next week. Before you do that, hit that subscribe button. Do that for us. It's your last chance in 2024 to do it. Do it right now, down there. And then we'll see you next week. Happy New Year, guys.
Absolutely. Mike, do your classic take us home here.
Well, until the new year, you guys have been counted out.
Cheers.